Hey guys, when the road to recovery seems endless, how do you find the strength to keep going? In today's episode, you'll get to know accountability buddies Alexandra and Mona, who not only navigated their way out of a chronic illness together, but also transformed their whole lives in the process. If you're new here, I'm Raelan, and every week I'm bringing you inspiring stories of recovery from ME/CFS and long COVID, offering insights and hope from those who've walked these challenging paths. And Alexandra and Mona's stories are so incredibly inspiring and have a special place in my heart because I got to meet them both right here in California, right as they were finally finding their way past ME/CFS. They are such beautiful people. You're going to absolutely love them. They have learned so much and have so much great insight. There is a ton that we can learn from them both. So let's dive in. Guys, this is so exciting. I can't believe we're here doing this, the three of us. This is just surreal. So happy to have you here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'm still a little bit new at figuring out how to interview two people at once. But we're going to work our way through it as best as we can. So I know both of you have been through a lot and have some incredible stories to share. So who wants to jump in first and let us know how their journey began?
Alexandra?
I guess I will go first. I'm Alexandra. I got sick in December 2017, and I was sick for a total of 4 years. I like to say I was sick for 3 years, and then the fourth year was my recovery journey back to full health. So I'm fully recovered now for over 2 years. So that's very, very exciting. And yeah, it was a very interesting journey, and I'm more than happy to share it with others and hopefully inspire someone that it's along the way right now. It's very easy to remember how my journey started because it started with a visit to the ER with some crazy symptoms. And in the next few months, it was more visits and tests and blood work and MRI because my sensation started with severe brain fog. So we even did the brain scan and all of that and more tests. Then very high anxiety and the fatigue slowly start to set in. So I went from like 100 to like under 20 in a matter of weeks. It was not a slow set, and it made me very scared, and my family as well. And my mom, I'm originally from Eastern Europe, living in US. So my mom traveled, just what's going on. Everybody kind of came around to find out what this is. And I had to stop working and change doctors and more tests and more specialists. And that first year was really a blur. I was not even aware of any kind of communities out there. I don't think your community was there, Raelan, at the time quite yet. And it felt very, very lonely, very expensive as well. I think it was towards the end of the first year that I started to jump into alternative medicine answers and tests. And that's when everything started to be even more expensive. But I was definitely on the medical route, very heavy, spend a lot of money and paperwork to keep me out of work, but still maintain my job. So I have medical insurance. So it was a very, very highly emotional time for me and for my family. My son was 5 years old when I got sick, and there is still a little bit of grieving there, losing 4 years of his childhood. So then the second year, I slowly found out some communities. I found some other resources, but I was still with the idea that I just need to find the right doctor that has the right medication, the right combination of medication to get me out of this. So that was my approach the second year as well, just spending more on supplements, spending more on any type of stuff. The doctor was just throwing stuff at me, try this, nothing took me anywhere. Then I went into very heavy detox, which sometimes when we go into the alternative route will take us. We found a mold exposure that was probably one of the last draws in my case, and I hunt that avenue for quite a while. So that entitles a lot of detox, infrared sauna, dry brushing, coffee enemas. Like, let's go there. I went there, it's like anything.
So many of us went there. We empathize.
Like, just people in this community will understand like how your life arounds when you do that. And I think I depleted my body even more with some aggressive detoxes like this, and it felt so depriving, even trying all sorts of diets. So it just felt that I was running in circles, not getting any better. So that was for the second year as well, and I had to quit my work completely. Probably I went under 20% at my worst, like housebound. Sometimes I had bed bounds for a few weeks at a time. Someone had to help me cook for me. I had to have like one of those little seats for the shower. So very, very hard times for me and for my family, especially for my parents that they don't speak the language. They were here. Even if they wanted to help, they didn't understand the system or what to do, So it was very, very hard. I got my diagnosis almost 2 years after I started being sick. That's how long it took for me, probably even more for some other people. And once the diagnosis came, the doctor sent me home with 2 pages from WebMD, nothing towards recovering. But I guess it brought a little bit of light because slowly it got me into the CFS communities like yours. Maybe it took another 6 months until I found the CFS communities, and close to the end of the third year, I found your community, Raelan, and that made such a big impact. And that's where I found a group of people, and I really, really focused on recovery. And for my story, and that's how things were for me, it was through a brain retraining program, how I regained my health. It was not the first one that I tried, and I want to be very clear about that, because I talk with a lot of people, and sometimes they try something and it doesn't work, and they get discouraged. And I was discouraged with the first one that I tried. It took me back for, okay, one more thing that I failed. That's how I looked at it at the time. And it took me another year until I tried again. So with the second one, sometimes you have to find that right approach for you. There is something for everybody out there by now. So that was what really changed things for me. It took me 14 months to regain my whole health. So yeah, that's my story in a nutshell, but we will go into detail as you want to.
Which brain training program ended up being successful for you?
So yes, I recovered with ANS Rewire. So that was the one for me. And for me in the illness, I was like running like a chicken with no head. That's how I describe it, right? We kind of find some resources, we kind of find a little bit of information in here and there, but it's like, how do I package this? How do I make them work for me, like day in and day out? So for me, the way the program was designed was, it's kind of like those bite size. It's just really step into that mode of being coachable and really just follow step by step by step. And that's what I did. So I really resonate with how Dan, the founder of ANS Rewire, explained the dysfunction and how he organized the steps into our brain training.
Amazing. And at what point did you meet Mona?
So I discovered your group in September 2020. So that summer, it's when I started being in the recovery groups. And someone mentioned your name in another type of a group. And I think you just created a group. It was under 200 people, your Facebook group. And I started posting there here and there. That's what I post. I'm starting a program. Who wants to join, like a handful of a community, so we can do this together. My posts are still there if people tap on my name on your group. And I started doing ANS Rewire. And one time I put like a little small win that I was able to go in a park. And I think I was like hugging a tree. It's like, oh my God, like nature, wonderful. And that's when Mona contacted me on private and asked me how I'm doing, like just out of the blue. We didn't communicate before, but she saw my post there before, and it was very, very sweet of her. And that's where our connection and our friendship started.
Okay, definitely want to hear more about that. But Mona, why don't you take us back and how did this all start for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting as Alexandra was speaking, I felt there were so many similarities in our journey. And in fact, when I got sick was the same year that Alexandra got sick. It was, and you know how, isn't it interesting, Raelan, that all of us always remember the day, the year, and the month we get sick because unfortunately it's such a hard time. And it was also 2017 in March specifically. And I just remember coming home from work and, just having a high heart rate. And that wasn't normal for me. I wasn't somebody that was prone to anxiety. So I knew it wasn't stemming from that either. And at first I kept ignoring it and then it just kept getting higher. And long story short, I ended up in the emergency room. My heart rate was about 180. They thought I was taking drugs. And I said, I don't take drugs. Like, I promise you I don't take drugs. But I recall about 4 weeks prior to that incident, I was fighting a viral cold, actually. And it was just lingering. And I went to the urgent care and I asked the doctor, I said, can you just give me antibiotics? Because I feel like this thing is just going on. And I can just feel the sinus congestion. And she wouldn't give it to me. And I was so frustrated. She said, I just have to weather it out. And of course, 4 weeks prior to that cold, I had gone to Mexico with my husband. Were all those things directly linked? Who knows? But I definitely remember being sick. And that emergency episode was very unsettling because I was never sick and, like that ever. Much like you, Raelan, I was into working out prior to that. I was hiking. There's a trail here. You may be familiar with it, Mission Peak. I would go on that hiking trail, weekly. I was working out 5 days a week. I was holding a job. I was taking care of 2 kids, everything all of us do, right? And just such a go-getter person. And so when this happened, it was really shocking. And I think a lot of denial was there in the beginning that, oh, I'm just going to weather this out. It's going to be okay. And I think a lot of us do that. And I was okay after that episode, but then I started getting the signs, right? The early signs that something's quite not right. My body temperature started changing. I started having dizziness and lightheadedness. And then, I, again, would just sweep it under the carpet and say, well, it's okay. It's going to go away. And I had just turned 40. So I was questioning whether, maybe these are some hormonal changes early on that are going on with my body. And then the real shift that happened is my husband and I decided a couple of months after that to go to Costa Rica. And I was just not feeling right, but I wanted to commit to this vacation since my family had not been on a vacation in a while. And on the plane, I actually ended up having a really horrible episode of it was like an autonomic overdrive episode where I ended up almost convulsing and I ended up, passing out and my blood pressure raised up. And once I got to Costa Rica, my heart rate was irregular. It was high, it was up and down. And I ended up getting workup over there. I barely made it back. It was, to the United States. It was a really difficult time. And that's when my journey started with just going downwards from that point on, unfortunately. After I got back from Costa Rica, I got full workup done, cardiology, my doctor ran all kinds of lab works and, the answer, oh, we can't really see anything there. Everything looks fine. And it's really, and, in a way it's a blessing because you're like, okay, good. Nothing serious is wrong. And so then you move forward and you keep going on with life, but then all of a sudden you're starting to have these ups and downs that are continuing. You're like, well, scratching your head, like, how am I fine on paper, but I'm not feeling fine? And so that was in 2017. And honestly, I wasn't consistently getting worse. Mine were more ups and downs. And that's how my presentation was from 2017 through 19, where for a couple of weeks, I'd be pretty stable. I would still maintain my job. I would be able to do things. And then I would have to call into work for about 2 weeks because I couldn't get out of bed. And I didn't understand what was going on. And so the symptoms, what was really interesting is all my systems were starting to pile up. And what I mean by that was initially it was my high heart rate. It was my autonomic nervous system. And then my GI system started kicking in. And I started getting the food sensitivities. I started getting the, loose stools and, intolerances to different foods, and my stomach would be upset. And I just ended up going through so many doctors. We have a very renowned healthcare institution in the area where I live, and they couldn't figure it out. And it was really frustrating. I started losing a lot of time with my children. And believe it or not, even at that time, I was still in denial that this was something serious and lasting a very long time. And I wasn't prepared for what was about to be a 5-year journey of just getting more and more sick to the point where I just hit rock bottom. And that rock bottom happened in about, I would say, 2020. In fact, that's when I met Raelan. And that was when, from 2017 through 2019, I was not getting any answers from Western medicine. I started going the alternative medicine route, and I went with the naturopath. And this is not to disrespect the naturopath profession. I really do believe in it, actually. And I do know that for people, it has worked a lot. But for me, I think that the stage in my journey where I was at, it was not the right decision for me. But I was so desperate, like we all are, right? We're so desperate to try anything to feel better. And so I, like Alexandra, spent so much money on this natural path. And I went from taking no supplements to like 20 supplements. And and people would ask me, are you feeling better? And I'd say, yeah, but I'd be shaking my head, no, and I wanted to feel better, but I really wasn't, even with all those supplements. And so I ended up just continuing to trust in the process. But what ended up happening is 2 weeks after that, I had developed, I don't know if you've heard of this ever before, I ended up developing chronic urticaria, which is hives. And it's actually it's autoimmune, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It can be an allergic reaction. And they are literally huge hive welts that are all over your body. And they just popped up out of nowhere. And I was filled, Raelan, with hives everywhere. And then I went back to, in fact, I was referred to an immunologist, and he said, yeah, unfortunately, I see this a lot with people that are trying to do like gut detoxes. I was at that time also doing like a gut cleanse, a parasite cleanse, many different things. And unfortunately, that triggered chronic urticaria in me. And so now I was on steroids to try to calm it down because nothing else would calm it down. I gained about 40 pounds on the prednisone, and I was just in a worse off condition than before. And then my naturopath said, well, your iron is low, so we should give you iron injections. And again, desperate to get better, I just trusted the process. And that's when I had my first official crash. After those iron injections, I was bedbound. And I would say for about a good 5 months. And when I say bedbound, if I got up to walk from my bed to the bathroom, my heart rate would go up to 180 beats per minute. It was really high, and I would have to hold on to the walls to get to the bathroom. It was so difficult, and showering was extremely difficult. Some days I couldn't even do it. And so then I, went back to my naturopath, and of course they said, oh, this shouldn't be a side effect. And so it was a really difficult time. It was a very dark time for me. And I think just thinking about all of that right now, it just almost triggers some of the emotions that I was going with at that time. And at that time, Raelan, all I had was my remote control, my bed, and my TV. And that's when I found you. I found you on YouTube. And actually did not find you on Facebook community initially. I was Googling through, just desperate for answers. And that's when I saw your videos. And I just had like a ray of hope at that point, because I had not looked into anything outside, like doing more than just like naturopathy and Western medicine. I didn't want to look into alternative other healing, because I really thought that there was going to be a pill that would fix me. Right. And I didn't think that when people would say, oh, well, try to meditate, and I thought, oh, that's not going to work for me. And then when I started looking at your videos and I saw how people were talking about some of these approaches and tools and how they were working for them, I thought, I really need to look into this further. And that's when I joined the Facebook community. And boy, what an amazing community you have created. I think it's just so wonderful to know that you are not alone in this process. And so that's where I found Alexandra. There was something unique about the picture that Alexandra had posted on Facebook. It was a picture of her hugging a tree, and there was just like, you could tell she was really sick on her face, and I could tell she was struggling to be out there. But then I thought to myself, she's out there though, she's still trying, and that just it just drew me to want to reach out to her. And that started a lifetime of friendship, and we just connected right away. We shared our stories with each other, and I honestly can say that having this accountability partner, if that wasn't there, I probably wouldn't be where I am at in my journey right now. I don't think I would have gotten out of that cycle of being sick, or at least I would have still been struggling to heal myself had I not met Alexandra, because she was such a guiding force for me and helping me to continue to trust the process in healing and to continue to go. And I think that's where a lot of us struggle, right? Is to trust the process and want to keep going, because it is very tiring to try to heal. It is very tiring to do these diets and to, try these different tools when you know that, oh, I've tried them before and they don't work. And, you want to give up so easily. But when you have that accountability partner there, like I had Alexandra, she would reach out to me and she would say, you can do this. And she would give me pointers on, yes, you had a bad day today. You didn't get up till 3 o'clock out of bed, but you got out of bed. So she always saw the positive things in my day. And so it was great to have that. And so it wasn't until I would say 2021 is when I started my healing journey. And then 2022, I saw significant improvement, like where I wasn't seeing too much of and of course, progress is never linear, but I was seeing less dips. So it was more like a dip, but a bigger push up, a smaller dip, a bigger push up. And so that was great. And this year has been wonderful. I've glad to report that I walk an hour a day. I've started jogging. I'm doing weight training. I'm working full time. I just went on a trip, visiting Southern California. We went to Disneyland with my children. Flew to Utah, visited family. So it's just been wonderful. And yeah, so here I am, and very grateful to you and very grateful to Alexandra.
I just think that's so brave of you to reach out to a stranger on the internet and just be like, hey, can we talk? I think most of us just sort of stay in a cell a bit and don't want to take that chance and, don't know what the other person is going to be like. But oh, this is so incredible. And it sounds like it's been such a massively good thing for both of you.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
It was, and let me tell you guys how Mona reached, because this is where it shows her big heart. So our journeys were a little bit different. I didn't have the ups and downs, and these become different approaches that we had to take in recovery, and I will tell you about it. But I totally relate with what you said about denial. I talk with a lot of people after recovery, and I recognize that because it was in myself. It's like, it's the denial, and then it's this stage of fear that it's almost paralyzing us. And after that, the research, the research, we're going full force, right? And then what I noticed for myself and for others is this stage of grief. And sometimes we don't start recovery until we grieve properly, like the life that we had. And somehow this will change us, like it will leave a scar, but it's like, how do we make peace with that? So it's such a full emotion, like storm, even before we start recovery. So the moment when I decided to because in a lot of ways it's a clear decision as well, into like I am going into this like with my whole focus and determination. And I think I use accountability, your Facebook group, Raelan, before I found a handful of people, including Mona. But what was special about Mona, when she texted me, messaged me, she was bedbound at the time. I was housebound, kind of starting to get the momentum going with the program. And she said something that it stayed in my heart forever. She said, I wish you all the best. She's like, even if I cannot recover, at least I hope you will. And yeah, that touched me very, very deep. Like, I met quite a few people that when this illness strips almost everything from you, what is left is it's pure kindness and pure love. It can be a beautiful thing of a connection there. And that's what I felt with Mona. And we start doing things like it was interesting because I'm 2 hours ahead on Central Time, and Mona, you are Western Time, right? So I was always had the 2 hours heads up. So our accountability always started. It's like, well, Mona wakes up, and then she has to see that I did what I need to do. And of course, she woke up, and then she was like, well, Alexandra did it. I might as well. So that's kind of how our days start doing. Like even showing a picture of a load of laundry. I'm like, 5 items. I think I can do 5 items. Here is a picture of that. And then later I will do another 5 items. And this load of laundry will be done in 3 days. Like we went to those type of details. Sometimes I'm thinking of when someone is in, it's like in war, and they have a wooden soldier, and it's like, we will both survive. Like sometimes like one of us is like, I will hold you for a little bit, because when I am down, you will hold me. But like both of us will somehow come out of this. That's kind of.
Although I have to say, Alexandra held me a lot more than I held her. Yeah.
Maybe,
no,
but
I'd like to expand on that, for sure, Alexandra, because I think what was unique was and this is so normal, right, Raelan, with this illness, there's so much anxiety, right? The fear of the unknown, and every time I would be symptomatic, every time I was having such a bad day, although every day was bad, but if it was even a worse day, I was crying. I was so uneasy and I was so miserable. And it was just, why me? Why me? Why am I like this? I should be out playing with my kids. I should be doing this. And it was so nice to have her, because I would reach out to her. I would leave her messages crying, and she would call me right away, and we would talk about it. And she would put things back into perspective, and she always got me back on that road of, look forward. You are where you are right now, but what can you do right now to just get yourself a little bit better, right? And she always put me back on track. And that's why I always say I have so much to thank her for, because I really truly feel she was a big part of me healing myself, because she was there to coach me, and guide me. And there were days when Alexandra was not having a good day, and she would send it, and it was really cute because we would send each other videos all the time. Even if it was me sitting at the edge of the bed, raising my arms up and down, I'd say, look what I did today. And she would send me a video of saying, I went out and walked for 5 minutes. And that was like such a big win for her at that time, right? And we would send these videos to each other, and getting that video from Alexandra, just walking outside, even if it was for 5 minutes, was so motivating for me. And that's how we motivated each other, and I think, Alexandra, would you agree? We sent videos and recordings every day.
Yeah, we had to download our phones quite a few times a year, because how much memory we used, for sure.
We had a lot of time on our hands, for sure.
We actually did. I really looked at recovery as like, people go in the morning, they clock in, they go to work. And I know people have different circumstances, but we really looked at recovery. This cannot be an afterthought. Like we were really in morning to night. And I was an athlete when I was younger, and I did track and field, I did endurance, and that mentality was still in my head. 5 minutes, come on, 5. Why? This was me before I was sick. It's like, why do people do 5K? Come on, do a half marathon at least. I never appreciate the small wins, and that's one of the big things that I had to learn into, like, nothing it's small enough. Then in the program, he said, even if you're in bed and you can just stand up and you extend your arms up and down one time, you did something for your lymphatic system. So I came up to like such a small chunk of anything, and then don't even just do that and move on, like celebrate it, like tell others, like cheer each other up. And that's how we build momentum, like on every tiny little thing that will add up.
Yeah.
This is incredible. I think you guys gave each other the support and the help that no program on earth could offer for you. Like it's just what you
Yeah.
guys did is so magical. And I'm sure it's so moving for so many people that are watching, thinking, where's my Alexandra or where's my Mona?
Yeah.
More and more people are doing this. And you had mentioned I had recently Joe and Josh on, and they found each other online, and they were in a really bad place and ended up really carrying each other out of this and are now fully recovered. And I have other people reach out to me from my Facebook group, and they don't want to do videos, but they found people there that have been support and saying, I don't know where I'd be without it. And the group that you guys keep mentioning, just for people watching, I'll link it below. I think what makes this one unique is that it's a very strong focus on optimism and recovery. So there's no, venting just for venting's sake. There's no gaslighting. You have to believe in recovery to be in the group. It's in the rules. Respect everyone's journey of recovery and come at that. You can share your struggles, but with the purpose of, trying to overcome them and just as much as possible come at things from an optimistic space. So I know everyone has different things that work for them, and we have to be careful of online platforms because they're not always healthy for us. But if you're watching this and you're thinking, I could really use this kind of support and accountability, it might be worth poking your head into that group and just seeing if any tree hugger in there catches your eye.
For sure. I talk with a lot of people, like it's my way to give back. So I created small communities. It's what I wish I had when I was in recovery. I was with Mona, but we were both at the same. I wish I had someone a few months ahead of me, a year ahead of me, to kind of guide that. So I did my best in the last 2 years to really actually go back to your group every January. I did, and find a group of people and create a small community on WhatsApp for them to do it and me to encourage them. So coaching comes a little bit natural for me, but when I did it with Mona, the truth to be told, I was encouraging myself, encouraging her. You know how sometimes it goes, like you have to do those, like walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So it helped us both. And even now I am in contact, and I do some coaching, and people is like, where do I find a community like that? That sounds so special. What is my accountability partner? And the easiest and the most real answer is build it, like find it, create it yourself if it's not out there ready for you. And some of them are with a price tag, but if that's not an option, and it might not for some people, it's you really build it on your own. And you have to pre-screen a little bit to see if people are really focusing and they have the same belief like yours. But I think anybody can find a handful of people they can do recovery with.
I love it. And we all got to meet together in San Francisco. So what made you guys reach out to me? Because that was really fun and really special and moving for me to meet up with the two of you.
Well, it was I know that was so amazing. I think I was talking to Alexandra because actually Alexandra and I, after being with each other, what I would say almost a year and a half, being connected and building this great friendship, we decided to meet. So Alexandra and I decided to meet in the San Francisco area, and she came by, and that was our first initial in-person meeting after knowing each other online and through phone calls and everything. And so then I told her, I said, I know that Raelan actually, works and lives in this area that we were in, and maybe we should reach out to her. And we thought it was like a big stretch, right? And I don't know, Raelan, if you recall, but this is probably going to make you laugh. When I first saw you, I said, oh my God, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity. And that was the first thing I said to you, and you just couldn't stop laughing. You're like, oh, I have to tell my husband that one. But
you heard about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and all jokes aside, I think just meeting somebody that we really looked up to, that genuinely really wants to help the community because of what you've gone through yourself. It was such a privilege meeting you, and for you to take the time out in your busy schedule. And we were so excited when you were just like, yeah, no worries, let's get together. And it was so welcoming. And all of a sudden we were in San Francisco having coffee with you.
It was really amazing for me as well, because I talked to a lot of
Yeah.
people in this format, but it's not the same as meeting in real life. And, it's the same. When I went through my illness recovery, I didn't know anybody, and I wasn't a part of any of these online communities. It was very much a
Yeah.
solo journey. So it's really validating for me and just healing, I think. It's just good for the soul to be able to just look in the eyes of people who know what you've been through, and we can just kind of like we just get it. I think you kind of plow through the small talk really quickly and get to the real stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really wonderful getting to meet you, and I've surprisingly got to meet quite a few people that have come through the Bay Area. So if you're watching and you are going to be here, let me know. Let's grab a coffee,
Yeah.
because it's really, at least for me, a really cool experience to
Yeah.
Oh,
people in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very special.
Yeah.
Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah.
yes.
No, definitely.
So maybe it's just for each of you, maybe Mona, I'll ask you first. If you were to highlight, say, the top three things or the most important things that helped you to get to where you are now, what would they be?
Ultimately, it was trusting the process. I would say number one is just trust the process. Don't doubt it, just trust it. And I know that's really hard to do when you're going through so many emotions. And that's where that accountability partner really helps, is to, because they're there to remind you and put your mind in the right frame when you do get away from that mindset of trusting the process. They're there to get you back into that. And I would say number two, consistency over time. I'm a true believer in it now. In fact,
Mm.
Alexandra and I are now on a different journey together, where we're holding ourselves accountable with our fitness journey. We are working on weight training together. We're working on, just improving our cardiovascular health. And so we send videos to ourselves weekly about what exercises we did and did we complete what we said we were going to complete. And the consistency in that has been showing. I've lost weight. Getting this steroid weight off has been very difficult, but it's finally happening. And I know Alexandra has done remarkably well with her, weight loss goals as well. So the consistency, and when I look, and the consistency is so important, because even when I was sick and I was trying to heal, when one day looked fairly good, the next 4 days looked crappy and shitty, excuse my language, I kept going. And I cannot say how important that is, not to judge those 4 bad days and let that become a pattern of just letting it continue. You have to keep pulling those tools out of your toolbox and keep trying, even when you feel like they're not working. And those tools could be, meditation for you. It could be brain retraining. It could be a diet, whatever it is. I think when we're so sick, we're so desperate to feel better that we think it's not going to work, and we switch it up, right? We try something, we stop it, and then we go on and try something else. And I think we just have to keep trying these different tools and trust the process, because eventually that consistency is going to, really kick in, and you're going to start seeing the results. And I think number three, which was really, really important, is be your own advocate. You have to, because at the end of the day, no one is going to fight this fight but yourself. And you have to advocate for yourself. Everybody that's out there, whether they're naturopaths, they're your doctors, they're your accountability partners. But if you don't believe in yourself and you don't advocate and do it, you will not get out of this. That's for me, and that's what I experienced. Was just advocating for myself. I think it took 6 GI doctors before I found the right one. It took 3 naturopaths before I found the right one, and you just have to keep doing it. And yes, it sucks, because sometimes that can take a very long time. But yeah, those would be, I think, the 3 major things.
I think those are three major things for all of life.
Yes.
Every one of them was
Yeah.
resonating for me on so many different things that I'm facing or have faced. I'm like, yes, yes, and
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How about for you, Alexandra? What's your top one?
Oh, three things. How we can put it into three things. So, yeah, I definitely validate everything you said, Mona. There are so many things, but if I look at three, I think for me, everything starts with taking responsibility for my recovery, to understand, even if it's not everything, because we can do everything we talked about here and more with having a doctor, with having a treatment plan. It's not about that. It's what is on me. What can I do? And it took me 3 years to understand there is something that will take me all the way, or it moves the needles in any way. So I always like to tell people that recovery is more than what we put in our mouth, because we focus on the pills and the supplements or even the diets. But what we can control is what we hear, what we see, what is in our mind, how we talk, and what's in our heart. Like those elements are in our control and they make a difference. When I refer to what I hear or what I see, do you watch the news? Like, what are you reading? What, like anything can trigger us, like certain research. So I do think that for recovery, you wanna, for a while at least, focus on recovery and focus on these stories that found their way on the other side. So that will be one tip, is like how, in what ways I can take responsibility. And it's not an easy step to take. I know that. The second one, I think it will be just the whole world of neuroplasticity and brain retraining. And I'm in coaching school myself right now, studying neuroplasticity and NLP tools. And it's such a fascinating field. And it's unbelievable, like how much neuroplasticity has to offer, and we're almost there but not quite, to really come into the mainstream what that can do from chronic illnesses. It's unbelievable what change did for me. How do we look at mindset and at beliefs, and what are the practices into how we're creating those new pathways that we want towards health and towards homeostasis, right? Because we talk about the regulating nervous system. So it's all about how do we work with those pathways. And again, that is something that it's on us, but that's a good thing because it's very empowering. It's very empowering. And the third tip for recovery, to me, it was the work that I decided to do on self-worth, self-love, and self-kindness. I talk with a lot of people, and it's unbelievable. This is the cushion. Whatever tools you apply, if they fail, they have to land on self-kindness and compassion. Because a lot of people, they try to march on through recovery. It's like, oh, one more tool, one more thing, like, and that creates a harshness. So we want to soften that out in different practices we can do. I say a lot of times that brain retraining is like learning how to walk again, and self-worth and self-love practices is learning how to run again. It really impacted my life so much. And even if it's something little, like putting your hand on your heart, and I give myself grace. However today was, I give myself grace. And that's like, how people talk about pacing and all the pacing strategies, that's for outside. And this is one of those tools for like, to keep the pacing on the inside, to really come from a place of acceptance and surrendering to the process.
You're gold, both of you. This is amazing. So good. I'm so happy for you both. I know you've been through absolute hell, and with children, I can't even begin to imagine what that has been like. I'm sure there are still things that you are processing and things that you will slowly be working through for a while, because this is a trauma to go through for sure. But to see where you are now, the both of you, and how insightful and wise and happy and just amazing people you are. I'm really excited for you both. I'm so glad that you both made it here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to you, Raelan. You're a big part of it.
You
It's
really are.
absolutely my pleasure. My pleasure.
Your message goes through all over the world, Raelan. I want you to know that I'm a traveler, and after recovery, I visit 8 countries in 8 months. It's like I cannot believe the beauty that is in the world and the way I can see it now on the other side. And I want to let you know that I met other people that I met through recovery in Germany, two friends in Germany. So I met them in person, and I just want to say, even for them and all the other ones that I know all over Europe, that your message touched any corner of any country.
That means the world to hear. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you both so much. I think this is so incredible. I know people are going to love this. And just the whole concept of support and not trying to do this alone is so powerful. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be on a mission now to find their Mona or find their Alexandra, which I think is a really incredible thing. So thank you both for your time, for everything that you're doing to support people in this community, and just for being the beautiful people that you are, and for your time today.
No, absolutely. And I know that, because of time purposes, I really didn't go into too much detail about how I particularly recovered. It was a lot of similar tools to Alexandra's, but if you need me to, give that information at a later point, just let me know.
Sounds good. And both Alexandra and Mona are in the Facebook group of mine that we had mentioned, so that will be linked in the video description, so you can reach out to them there as well if you want to connect and ask them some questions. And we'll share, I think, Alexandra's Instagram and whatever else that they want to share with the world will be in the video description, so I can just expand that and find everything that you need. So thank you to all of you watching. Oh my goodness, and you made it to the end of a video. That is really good. A lot of people don't. Says something about you. You are committed, or you just really like Mona and Alexandra, which would be understandable. But as you go through your journey, it's so much of just finding ways to keep picking yourself back up. And I know it can be tough, and there are some really hard days and weeks and months, but I just hope that you can find what you need in yourself, borrow hope from other people so that you can keep going and don't give up until you find your answers. Sending so much love to all of you. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a ton out of it, and I hope to see you in another. I'll link up the Healing Dudes, Joe and Josh, who are also accountability buddies, if you want to check those out.